We live in a busy world. Going to school, going to work, spending time with family and friends, finding time to just have fun. The more we juggle, the harder it can be to slow down and rest. We tell ourselves we can get through whatever life throws at us, but the truth is, rest is something all of us need. And Jesus showed us some of the best ways we can find it. When was the last time you felt fully rested? Unless I caught you on vacation, I'm willing to bet that you wish you had more rest than what you're getting. And God, He understands the importance of rest. At the beginning of the second chapter in the entire Bible, God took time to rest after, creating the entire universe. By the seventh day, God had finished the work He had been doing. So on the seventh day, He rested from all His work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it He rested from all the work of creating that He had done. What are these verses trying to tell us? Did the all-powerful creator of the entire universe really need a nap? What about passages like Isaiah 40 that say that God never grows tired or weary? God choosing to rest on the seventh day probably wasn't about Him personally needing rest. Instead, His choice was about us. He was showing us, by example, how good it is to rest. Now, this isn't the only time the topic of rest comes up in the Old Testament. When God gave the law to Moses and his people, rest was so important, He included it there too. He said, "Remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath day of rest dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. That includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, and any foreigners living among you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and everything in them, but on the seventh day He rested. And that is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy." In these verses, God makes it clear that rest isn't a luxury for the wealthy and powerful. Rest is for every person. And God didn't stop there. There weren't just Sabbath days, but Sabbath years too. These years were for the land, times of peace, when the fields were able to rest from their previous 6 years of work. In God's eyes, rest isn't just for people, it's for all of creation. So, that's the Old Testament. In the New Testament, we see Jesus practice Sabbath and rest several times. He would go to the synagogue to worship with his family and friends. He would also take breaks from teaching and retreat to the wilderness. It was there that he was able to rest and recuperate and spend the time he needed with his Father so he could continue his work on earth. So what does it look like for us to practice rest today in the middle of our busy lives? And how can rest actually bring us closer to Jesus? Well, here are 3 spiritual practices that can help. The first is Sabbath. If the idea of Sabbath is new to you, that's okay. All Sabbath means is choosing one day to rest instead of work. How you practice Sabbath might look different from the way someone else practices Sabbath, but the point is the same. It's all about letting go of doing in exchange for being. By spending time with God and the people you love and taking part in restful activities like going on a walk, enjoying a hobby, or having a conversation with a friend, you'll find yourself increasingly free from the busyness that rules our lives and better able to appreciate the good things that God's given you. The second is slowing. If Sabbath isn't enough to push back against the busyness in your life, slowing might be the practice you need. Practicing slowing looks like taking part in activities that force you to slow down during your day. This could look like choosing to drive or walk or eat more slowly. Like seriously, you could finish chewing the food in your mouth before you take another bite. Or it can look like placing buffers of time throughout your day so you're never rushing from one thing to the next. Jesus lived his life at a slow pace. We never see him hurry or rush. When we live life at his speed, we'll find ourselves better able to connect with him throughout our days. The last practice is silence and solitude. During Jesus' time on earth, he would spend time by himself so he could connect with his Father, and we can do the same thing. This looks like taking a break from everyday life, but instead of filling up your time off with things to do or people to see, you spend your time by yourself with God. This time can last a few hours or several days, depending on what works best for you and your season of life. And while you're by yourself, spend some of that time sitting or walking with God in silence. Freeing yourself from the distractions of chaos and noise will bring you rest and make you more attentive to the voice of Jesus. God cares about our well-being, and a big part of that well-being is getting enough rest. Finding it isn't always easy, but when we make rest a priority, you'll find ourselves better prepared for life and more aware of God's closeness to us. Want to learn more about spiritual practices? Just click this link here.